Hi guys, and welcome to this episode of the Work Knits podcast. It has been about a month since I've done a kind of traditional episode. Whilst I was away on honeymoon, I released a kind of my top 10 yarns from 2023 video. So I hope you all really enjoyed that, and if you haven't seen that, then you can find that linked at the top of the screen. But other than that, there hasn't been any podcast content. Now, the last couple of days I've been filming Vlogmas content. That's been a whole new experience. If you'd like to join me for Vlogmas, I'm releasing a video once every 2 days at about 6 o'clock. And yeah, I'm just kind of bringing you along with me with Christmas prep. You'll have to be a little bit patient with me. The kind of vlog style filming is very, very different to these podcast episodes. So just beginning to get to grips with that. And as you can hear, my voice is going slightly from talking to the camera so often. But I'm really enjoying that process, and I'm sure the filming will improve as we go along. It's also quite interesting trying to create quite aesthetic shots when you're not necessarily in your own home and your normal space. And so for those of you who don't know, we're currently staying with family, and you know, they're very accommodating, very kind of generous, and you know, really encourage us to see this as, you know, our home, but it feels a bit odd kind of rearranging things in their house, so I try not to. Anyway, enough waffle. Hello, I hope that you've all been doing well. I hope you've been really beginning to get some knitting in. I'm sure lots of people are avidly gift knitting right now. So that actually brings me on to a tiny bit of podcast admin before we kick into kind of normal episode format. And that's to say that on the last episode I mentioned the idea of maybe doing a knit along to coincide with Stephen West's knit along. You could double dip if you wanted, but the idea being that kind of post Christmas we do a cowl that's all about investing in ourselves, knitting for us, knitting for things that will bring you so much joy, or if it's that you're kind of wanting to learn a new skill and you've not yet, you know, had an opportunity to set the time aside, whatever it is that for you means kind of investing in you. So that was received very well. Thank you all for your comments and thoughts on that below that video. And so I will formalise details probably in the next episode, which will be one kind of right before Christmas. But basically I think the idea will be to cast on the 26th, so that's Boxing Day. As I say, closer to the time I will have a think about logistics around whether it would be possible to do like a cast on party. Maybe we could do a live YouTube video. I don't know, let me work out where I'm going to be physically based on Boxing Day and what the plans are, but I'm sure at some point in the knit along we can do a couple of live videos. That'd be really good fun. The knit along will run for the whole of till the end of January, but obviously if people haven't finished stuff, that's absolutely fine. The point is just to enjoy making things for ourselves. So that's the plan. I'll put more details below as a reminder, and as I say, I will either on Instagram or on the next podcast episode kind of finalise details a little bit more. So that's that idea. I have got a cup of coffee with me, so before we get into content proper, I'm just going to take a quick sip. Oh, that tastes good. Okay, right, so given it's been a month and given that we've been away travelling and relaxing, I really thought I'd have loads of knitting for you, and I have some really good stuff to share, but I don't have as much as I thought. So I have got with me, I think, one finished object. It's not blocked yet, I need to do that later this afternoon, but that finished object is, it's very crunkled, this two-tone flea stitch cowl. It's a double fabric, like double layered tube, and it's a gift this Christmas. So this was knit on 3.5mm needles. I cast on something like 140 stitches, and then I've just done a flea stitch motif where you knit, it's doodled, so I'm not kind of, don't worry, this is not a page wall pattern that I'm showing the details of this. I just doodled it, 140 stitches. I knit 3 rows plain, and then I knit a contrast colour stitch, knit three main colour, contrast colour stitch, On the next repeat of the pattern, basically I just moved where I placed the flea stitch so that it's in the, so then knit 3 stitches, then put your your contrast colour. I've not described that very well. Again, I'll put more details in the description box below, but I hope you kind of get roughly what I mean. And yes, this is super, super soft. It's knit up in Knitting for Olive, Merino. I think it's going to look even more beautiful when it's blocked. And the colours that I've used, the main colour that goes throughout the whole thing is light grey, or like pearl grey. And then the yellow is called Mustard, and this blue is called Dusty Petroleum. And I just think it's going to be so perfect for the recipient. I wanted it two-tone because it's got kind of a quite graphic look if you have the split of colour down the front, or if the outfit suits blue more, you got the blue, and if it suits mustard more, you got the mustard. So I just think this is going to be really perfect. It's exactly the size I wanted to turn out as, very squishy and nice and deep, so it can be pulled up around the face if needed with these chilly winds we're getting here in the UK at the moment. So that's my one and only finished object. That being said, we have got significant progress on a number of other objects. One object that you were probably thinking you might see but I have actually made no progress on is these mittens, so those are going to be on the list for the next couple of weeks. I will give you more details when I do that. I also haven't made any progress on my Mui wrap. This was something that I cast on just before the last episode, or it's been in 2 episodes now. I've made absolutely no progress on this. I've been using the needles on other things. I know it's a bit strange really to say what I haven't progressed on, but you know, transparency and all of that. So I haven't made any progress on those. If we come to a almost finished object, maybe that's quite a good place to start. So I actually probably could have got this finished this morning, but we are in the midst of writing thank you cards for, we've been absolutely spoilt for the wedding, and so we've got a lot of thank you cards to write. So we've been focusing on that, which is what we should be doing. So I haven't finished this morning, but I could have. This will probably be finished in the next day or so. And that is my Grink Wrap, so called. Another kind of slightly doodled, I guess, piece project. This is my first ever intarsia project, and I have just doodled different blocks. I've held the same, minus the grey border, I've held the same yarn as a main colour the whole way through, and I've just changed the colour of mohair held with it. So the main colour is Knoll Yarns Superfine lambswool in the colourway Almond, and then this lightest mohair is Isager Mohair Ecru. This gorgeous mid-tone pink is Gullrock Fibres naturally dyed rose gold mohair, and then I don't know if you really saw, but at the other end we've got a dark pink. This is Schulana Kid Silk mohair in the colourway 210. And then around the border I've used more of the Knoll Yarns Superfine lambswool. This is now in the colourway Oxford, which is like a gorgeous dark grey but with some blue in it. And I'm holding 2 strands of that together. I've ended up not doing the side borders quite as thick as I thought I would. That's partially because this project has involved so much purling, and I don't mind purling. How do I put this? I don't mind purling when you're just in a rhythm. Like if all you're doing for a project was purling, I think I just really get into the rhythm of it. But what I hate is switching between. So like ribbing is my least favourite thing to do. But yeah, I think this project's been on the needles for so long, and I desperately want the finished object, that I'm not enjoying the process that much anymore. It's not bringing me that much joy. So I thought really, like, if I want to extend the border at a later date on the sides, I can, but I think it will still look really lovely at the width it is. I've got like 5 rows left on this. I mean, they're really long rows. This is all bunched up on the needle, but they're really long rows. But I think I can get those done in the next day or 2. And then I was going to apply an I-cord edge around the whole thing. I will do at a future point if I feel it needs it. But for the time being, I think I'll just like weave in ends, and which there are a lot of, and block it as it is without the I-cord edging. And then that can just be something I can add later, as I say, if I want to. But obviously the project's very usable in its kind of almost current form. So yeah, but look at all the ends, guys. Oh, I don't know if you can really see on camera, but so many ends. That's going to be a good hour or so of weaving those in. So anyway, that's an almost finished object. That'll be very exciting when that's off the needles. I really was in a mood to just kind of clear the decks a bit, really. So speaking of clearing the decks, another project that I've been really loving, and the only reason it's not finished is I keep putting it on pause for other projects that kind of timing wise are a little bit more pressured. That's probably not the right word, but just like logically I can't really justify working on this when there's other stuff that like needs to be done for a certain date. So what is this? This is currently inside out, which is not the most helpful. This is always the way with my stuff, because the way that I knit. I have been trying to do it a different way, but this just doesn't work for me, unfortunately. So anyway, we're almost there, guys, with turning this inside out. Okay, this is the Nord Sweater by Sandnes Garn. This is a kind of free pattern available on their website, and it's a gorgeous combination round colourwork yoke and raglan construction sweater. I'm knitting this in Filcolana Pernilla, which is one of my like desert island yarns. This is just the light grey colourway. It's got a beautiful level of kind of depth and tonality to it. Non-superwash, but like got a super lovely finish. I'm knitting the sweater on 3.5mm needles. I will do a full breakdown of the different colours in the yoke, which I have done in previous episodes, but I'll do that again when I've finished it. But I guess main things to say is work done since you last saw this. In terms of progress is I have knit the whole back split hem rib, which is 40 rows of twisted rib on 3mm needles. I've just knocked a decoration off my Christmas tree. I've also finished this sleeve minus a 40 row twisted rib cuff that will go on, and I've then picked up this sleeve and I'm kind of on the last like leg that I'm now just knitting straight on this sleeve, and then we'll need to do the cuff. So essentially I'm almost at a point where everything left to do is ribbing, and I'll also pick up the neckline again and do a big ribbed neck on this. So it doesn't look like massive progress, but it is, because it's all been on quite small needles and not particularly potato chippy. The sleeves I've done a number of like, I've counted X number of rows, then started decreases. The decreases need counting, although that kind of makes it go very, very quickly. The rows of ribbing on 3mm needles were obviously very painful, but we're getting there. So anyway, this is one I really want to finish. I'm really enjoying the process, even the ribbing, but I just can't prioritise it. So you'll see this done 100% before Christmas, which will be really nice. So what have I been working on to put that to one side? Well, one thing that I actually don't have with me, which would be a finished object, that's really annoying. 1 second, I'm going to go and get it. You can tell I'm really out of practice with podcasting because I forgot another finished object. And a really important one. Oh my goodness, let's jump back to finished objects momentarily, guys. So, my other finished object, which was done before I got married, is this. This is the Harris hood by CocoamourKnitwear, and I was lucky enough to be chosen as a tester for this, so they're probably now going to regret choosing me, given that I can't even put it in my initial finished object section. Oh dear. Okay, so this, as I say, was a test knit. It was a really quick test knit. It was a really active test knitting group, which was lovely. Everyone was really supportive of each other and kind of helping each other with design decisions around colours and wool. I had bought the yarn for this kind of in expectation that whether I got chosen to test knit it or not, I knew I was going to knit the pattern. So I bought 2 balls of Isager Eco Soft in the colourway ES2 or E2S, can't remember which way around that last bit is. So this pattern has just been launched and I cannot recommend it enough. I have to admit, I think my knitting friends really get it as like a style and an aesthetic, and I think those who live in kind of Scandinavian countries probably get it slightly more because this is something that's very fitting for their weather. I have worn it out in the UK a couple of times and I've had some slightly odd looks, but as a whole, I love it. I think it looks really chic. So it's a really interesting construction style. I won't go into it massively because it's a paid for pattern. But as I say, a really quick knit, beautiful fabric, really drapey, really warm. I knit this on 4.5mm needles. No, I knit this on 5mm needles for the main part and 4.5 for the ribbing. The ribbing is a beautiful kind of folded hem, and there's a really like clever way to fold that over, which I loved. It's got a really kind of neat and delicate bit of ribbing around the bottom with a really nice bind off technique. So yeah, I can't say enough good things about this really. I'm not going to put it on because my hair's quite static today and that's going to really aggravate it, but yeah, absolutely love this. So more photos to follow, and you should definitely go and check out the pattern. So another finished object, how could I forget? So I had that test knit on the go. Then I had some, obviously, Christmas gift knitting, one of which is finished. The mittens are going to be another Christmas gift, so I really need to get going with that second one, but they're quite quick, but I do need to get going with that. Some other gift knitting whilst we're on that topic that I need to get going on, and family members, please stop watching if you're currently watching. I love you for watching, but please stop. So some other gift knitting that I have been doing, and I did this on the plane on our travels. I am making a version of the classic ribbed beanie by Purl Soho. This is being knit up in Merino Skewers, ooh, hello, Mendip DK yarn in the colourway Rose. It's not showing up on camera correctly, it's kind of blowing out. It's this gorgeous like dusky but slightly hot pink. It's like raspberry sorbet is what it kind of looks like. Anyway, you'll see that for those of you who've knit the Purl Soho classic ribbed hat, you'll see this looks a bit different. So why? With hats, I always misjudge how much to knit before I start the decreases for the crown, every time. And I either end up with loads left over or I end up having to rip back a lot. And then the other challenge I had was that I just didn't think the yardage was going to match up with what I needed. This was at I'd crossed several time zones and was pretty exhausted and knitting semi in the dark. So, logically I probably should have checked the pattern more with, requirements. But anyway, what I thought I'd do was to cast on just below the decrease for the crown, knit the crown, and then pick that line back up and then knit down, because that way I could just then keep knitting until I ran out of yarn. And as you can kind of see, I am running out of yarn and it won't be enough, which is good to know because I can either order some more of this or I could do a contrast bottom section, which is what I think I might do. Not because I don't love this yarn, but because this is a 100% wool yarn and I really want the properties of that in this hat, but I also want the bottom section to be slightly more resilient to water. Yeah, as I say, it's a gift knit for someone, and just what I know they'll use it for, they need the bottom section to be more water resilient. Anyway, so I'm going to keep knitting, I'm going to go into a contrast colour, and then what I'm going to do is, you can see my pickup row is very obvious. Now if I'd had a crochet hook with me, I'd done a proper provisional cast on, which would have meant I didn't have this line. This is one of those things where I'm like, there are millions of ways I could have done this better, but actually I'm kind of happy with it. And what I'm going to do is, in the contrast colour that I do the rest of the bottom in, I'm going to do a applied crocheted line covering basically that seam in the contrast colour. So it's going to kind of become like a design feature. I think it's going to look really cool, even if it looks a bit bodged right now. But yeah, and it also lends a lot of really nice structure to the top of the hat, which I just love the way that Purl Soho does the decreases. But this is 1x1 rib. As I say, I knit all of this on one of the flights back. So pretty happy with that, and I just need to get through this bit and purchase a contrast colour, which I think I'm going to go for like a red, because this needs to be really bright again for this person's use of this object. needs to be quite bright, so I'm going to do that. So that's been getting a lot of time and priority over the last couple of weeks. The other thing I've been working on quite a lot when we were on holiday is this, although it's currently on barber cords. So quite hard to show. Let me undo the barber cord knot and then you can see it properly. There we go. Okay. So this is looking a bit funny at the moment and this has got to get an awful lot longer. I'm almost finished with my first skein of 4 of the main colour. This is the Corsten scarf from 52 Weeks of Scarves by Lane Publishing, and this is designed by Erica Jensen. I hope I've got that right. Beautiful scarf, mainly knit in garter stitch, and then you kind of apply like a kind of tartan style stripe. The main yarn that I'm using for this is Loch Lomond by BC Garn, and I will just pick out a skein of it to give you the colourway. So this is in the colour 09. And then the contrast white colour that I've got is actually also Merino Skewer Mendip DK, and that's just in the colourway like Cloud, I think, or like Sunny. So it's lovely. This is knit on 5mm needles, so another quite like chunky knit. It is quite quick, but there's quite a lot of counting involved, and I don't know if you can see, but you kind of have to, I've got multiple markers in because there's certain things you have to do, a certain number of stitches in. So not something that's completely mindless knitting, but it will work up quite quickly once I get going on it. That's another Christmas gift knit. Really enjoying that though, and I like the technique, and there's going to be some really cool tassels to put on at the end, so that's very funky. And then on top of that, I currently have another test knit on the go, which I'm also really loving. But what was my but? There isn't really a but. I just want to keep cracking on with this. I'm really enjoying it. So the last time I spoke to you guys about this test knit, I was partway down the initial back panel, which is this. I've now finished that part of the back panel, and I've now picked up and started knitting the front, and I've almost knit that to its full length, and then I'll be very, very shortly joining to work in the round, work the body, pick up the sleeves, pick up the collar. What order I'll do that in order to get some good Instagram pics, I don't know. But this is a test knit for Contour Knitwear, who's Sharon out in Ireland. This is the beautiful A-kill jumper. It's a top down, I don't actually know what you'd call this construction. It's not coming to my mind anyway, but really beautiful jumper. Really like kind of boxy, comfy but stylish, with some little cable details down the side, some really beautiful finishing techniques. Again, was super honoured to be selected to test knit. I am keeping the yarn I'm using a secret, but if you'd like to guess what the yarn is, feel free in the comments down below. But I will do a full kind of recap on this project when I've got a little bit further along, but really, really enjoying this test knit. I think it's going to be beautifully oversized. Oh, so good, so good. So I've been cracking along on that, and I'm knitting this on 4.5mm needles, and it's DK weight yarn. You could hold a merino and a mohair. I'm just holding DK weight. So yes, that's another one that I'm really looking to crack on with in the next week or two. The test knit is due to end, I think, kind of early January, so I've got a little way to go, but I think this week is really going to be a lot of knitting, which will be lovely and hopefully good for my Vlogmas, because my first Vlogmas featured basically no knitting. So yeah, there we go. That's the A-kill test knit. And then aside from that, so I took all those projects, apart from the Harris hood, with me on honeymoon. I knit a reasonable amount, but we were in a very hot country, so you know, mixed amounts of knitting, and plane journeys were quite cramped, so not so much, and that kind of like we flew a lot overnight, so ideally we should be sleeping. So maybe not as much progress on some projects as I thought there'd be, but hey, like that's not really the point of a honeymoon, to be pressured. So I've done a bit of work on that Grink Wrap since I've come home. The other thing I've been doing is I have done an advent swap with Anne of my North Knit Corner, who's also doing Vlogmas, doing some great videos. We did an advent calendar swap of our scrappy yarns, and last night I knit up the first yarn into 3 triangles. I have a little bit left, I don't know if it will do me a 4th, but 3 triangles for my scrappy triangle blanket. So I was a bit undecided whether I'd knit these into the blanket or not, and I've gone for it. So 3 triangles knit as well. These are knit on 2.25mm needles. I cast on 30 stitches using the long tail cast on method. I then knit to 3 stitches before the end of row, knit 2 together, knit 1, and then just knit a row plain on the way back, and I just repeat that until I've got 3 stitches left on the needles, at which point I cast off and pull the thread through the last stitch. And then I'm going to just seam all these together. I want to create like a kind of tonal rainbow blanket. So that's the plan. So I've got a number already knit up, but definitely nowhere near enough to make a blanket yet. But I'm hoping if I make at least 1 or 2 of these per day, I should be getting a little bit closer to at least a lap blanket size by the new year. Whether I kind of stop at a lap blanket size or whether I kind of go for a bigger one, I don't know, but the key will be that I need to lay them all out in the gradient before I start seaming. So it's gonna be one of those things that just suddenly comes together. Very excited. So anyway, I've been chatting away there. I haven't really drunk any of my coffee yet, but that is it for knitty content. This podcast might seem a little bit brief, but if you would like to see more and like to catch up with me more regularly, I am doing my Vlogmas, as I said, every 2 days, and there'll be tons of knitty content in there. My next actual kind of proper podcast episode I was going to do on the 24th of December, which is obviously Christmas Eve. Now I know lots of people will be celebrating with family then, so you know, appreciate that may not be the best timing. I thought it'd be nice to produce another one between now and Christmas Day, but very open if people think no, take a break. But I was going to do one on the 24th. I was hoping to do a kind of live video with you all before Christmas, which would have been just so lovely, but I think due to different time zones and with people celebrating on Christmas Eve, I'm not sure that would be the best day to do it. But let me know if people would be keen to do a live, and maybe we can squeeze an additional one in next weekend. Who knows? Then the week after Christmas I will be producing my roundup of everything I've knit in 2023. And then my next podcast episode will actually be released on Friday the 5th. And from then on, I'm going to release on Fridays, pending any massive objections below. The idea will be to release Friday kind of around 6 PM UK time, with the idea that then, you know, the content's there ready and waiting for everyone to relax over the weekend. But I think that might be nicer than the Sunday releases. So I was going to start that from Friday the 5th. Then it'll be Friday the 19th, etc., with a kind of bonus video in between, which will be a recap of a trip we're doing to Prague. So I will, I'll be producing some bonus content there. But yes, that's the kind of broad idea. Continue on Sundays until and including Christmas Eve, and then from there it will transition to Fridays. So let me know what you think, and I'm very excited to be kind of bringing more content over the coming weeks and months, and to be really focusing on this channel a little bit more. So for now, happy knitting. I hope you really enjoy the run up to the festive period. Do join me on Vlogmas if you'd like to follow along with me. We've got increasingly Christmassy things happening over the coming days, and I will speak to you all very, very soon. Bye for now.